A genetic disorder is an inherited condition caused by a DNA abnormality. Even though genetic disorders don't occur often, they can still have a big impact on someone's life. Hemochromatosis is an autosomal recessive disorder impacting the HFE gene on chromosome 6p21.3. This disorder absorbs twice the amount of iron needed for the body to operate correctly. Multiple somatic functions along with the formation of blood rely on iron, but when large quantities enter the body, problems can occur. Because of the large amounts of iron, one can experience feelings of joint pains, abdominal pain, irregular heartbeats, and/or change in skin color.
Hepcidin is a peptide hormone that regulates the iron that is used in the body. The HFE gene controls the hepcidin levels. Normally, hepcidin binds with an iron exporter called ferroportin. When the HFE gene is mutated and fails to do its job, hepcidin levels go down and the iron levels increase. Due to this, the iron has nowhere to go but important organs such as the pancreas, heart, joints, liver, and skin. If no treatment is given, the organs shut down and fail to fulfill their functions. With deficient functions, liver fibrosis, abdominal pain, heart failure, arthritis, diabetes, cancer, and skin hyperpigmentation can arise.
When the HFE gene is mutated, the proteins C282Y and H63D get substituted, meaning one base is replaced with another base in the nucleotide sequence. In C282Y, guanine is substituted for adenine, and in H63D, cytosine is substituted for guanine. 90% of the diagnoses are C282Y homozygous, meaning both proteins contain the same gene. 8% of the diagnoses are heterozygous for both, meaning that there are different proteins on different genes. And lastly, 2% are H63D homozygous.
Since hemochromatosis is an autosomal recessive genetic disorder, it can only be passed down if the parent is a carrier or a victim of the disorder themselves. For example, if both parents are carriers, there is a 1 in 4 chance of having an offspring that is affected, a 2 in 4 chance of having an offspring that is a carrier, and a 1 in 4 chance of having a child that does not have any genetic disorder at all. Usually, if a child is born with hemochromatosis, symptoms don't start occurring until later in their life.
Most of the symptoms of hemochromatosis don't give a clear answer whether the person is a victim of the disorder or not. A blood test that measures the amount of iron stored in the liver or a liver biopsy can give more of a certain answer. Men are more prone to hemochromatosis than women, since women lose iron during their menstrual cycles and pregnancy.
In America, about 1 in every 200 people are diagnosed with hemochromatosis. This disorder is also common in Caucasians that are descendants from Northern Europe. However, the mutation is mostly spread out evenly throughout the population. Life expectancy is still normal for someone with hemochromatosis.
There are several ways to treat hemochromatosis. One way is to remove blood. The amount and frequency depends on age, but the main goal is to get the iron levels back to normal. Another way is taking medicine that removes the excess iron. The most common medicine taken by people with hemochromatosis is called chelating agent. A chelating agent is a substance that can help de-iron the body. The molecules of chelating agents form more than one bond on a single metal ion. Some new ways to treat hemochromatosis are also being studied. Future treatments may include diet changes or a medicine that will be able to block iron from traveling through the body.
Around 32 million Americans are carriers of hemochromatosis, while only 1.5 million fully have the genetic disorder. Although not many people die from this, it can still have an effect on people's life.
Hi, my name is Christina O'Leary. I'm a clinical pharmacist and an assistant professor at Thomas Jefferson University in Philadelphia. I have a personal interest in hemochromatosis because my family was impacted by the disorder. My father died 5 years ago from pulmonary hypertension, which was a direct result of undiagnosed hemochromatosis. By the time an accurate diagnosis had been made, the excess iron caused by hemochromatosis had scarred his liver, his pancreas, to an extent that the damage was irreversible. It eventually led to the heart failure that killed him. The time from diagnosis to death was less than 4 years, and that time was horrific for my family, not just because of the physical impact of pulmonary hypertension, but living with the knowledge that this could have been avoided had the hemochromatosis been diagnosed earlier. What complicated it for me is that I was a member of my dad's healthcare team. And for years, I assisted in the management of his chronic conditions of diabetes, rheumatoid arthritis, osteoporosis, all of which can be tied back to iron overload. And I was devastated when we got the diagnosis because as I began to educate myself about it and educate the rest of the healthcare team, I was just racked with guilt that I missed this. That we had all missed this. That this condition is ridiculously treatable and no one should have a complication from it. My father was one of my biggest supporters. He was my hero. He was chief of detectives for Allegheny County and served the city of Pittsburgh in law enforcement for over 30 years, beginning as in uniform walking a beat and then eventually as a homicide detective. He loved his family, his friends, and his work equally. And to watch the physical impact, the devastation caused by an undiagnosed hemochromatosis was heartbreaking. My dad was also a very private man, but it is with his blessing that I share my family's story. I want to raise awareness. I want to increase screening for iron out of balance, and I want to do everything that I can to prevent another family from having the experience that my family did. And I'm grateful for the Iron Disorders Institute. And thank you for listening to my story.
To wrap things up, hemochromatosis is a very serious disorder, but in the end, as Aidan Quinn said, genetics play a huge part in who we are, but we also have free will.